and welcome to the DN News. This is DN Srivastava, your host from the DN News, on a special coverage of a 3-day international webinar, Future Education and Career, COVID Aftermath. We welcome you all here on this platform. And we have with us today a fantastic speaker from South America, Ms. Chiely Ochoa. And for taking the program ahead, I would request the host of Tejasvi Astitva Foundation, the organizer, to take the program and carry forward the program on her own. Thank you. Ruchika, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 3 days international webinar, Future Education and Career COVID Aftermath, organized by Vishakha Government Degree College, Vishakhapatnam, India, in collaboration with Tejasvi Astitva Foundation, which is a New Delhi-based non-government organization that fights for just and right. Again, I'm so pleased that you all have joined us today as well, and you have taken time out from your busy schedules. Thank you very much for that. My name is Ruchika Srivastava. I'm an engineer and a YouTube content creator. I make videos about personal growth, productivity, and lifestyle design. With me, I have two lovely ladies who are going to help me during this webinar that are my co-hosts. So I have Hema and Anuya as my co-hosts. Hema and Anuya, could you please say hi to everyone?
Hi Ruchika and hi everybody. Good morning to all. Have a nice day and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Hema. So I believe there are some technical issues from Anuya's side. She's unable to join us, but she'll be here soon. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the time over to welcome our very special guest for today, Ms. Chiely Ochoa, and I would like to introduce everyone to her. So we have Chiely Ochoa, who is a mindset coach for business owners, and she is from Colombia, South America. She has done her Master in Business Administration from Business School of Barcelona. She's an NLP certified practitioner and she's done her certification from Business School of Barcelona. She is also a certified coach, and she has done her certification from Business School of Barcelona. She talks about educational neurotechnology, and she has done her certification from International School of La Rioja, Spain. To get in touch with her, you can follow her on Instagram, where she talks a lot about mindset, procrastination, and manifestation, and all those good things. So to follow her, you can visit her Instagram page, mental.flourishing. And today she's going to talk about how to deal with uncertainty and set goals the right way so you actually follow through. Hi, Chili, how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm very good. Thank you for inviting me.
We are very pleased and honored to have you here, and we are very eager to hear what you have to say.
Awesome. I'm really excited to share. So I'm gonna share my screen. So like you mentioned, this is the topic of the presentation. So basically, it's going to be divided in two parts. In the first one, I'm going to explain how to deal with uncertainty, and in the second part, I'm going to explain how to set goals the right way so you can actually follow through. Sounds good?
Yes, very interesting.
Awesome. So let's start how to deal with uncertainty and all of that. So these are my initial 4 tips for you. So the first one is take action over the things you can actually control. Because the thing is, we sometimes think that we blame the outside circumstances for whatever is happening in life. And we feel like at some point we might feel like powerless. However, there are many things that we need to accept that are outside of our control. However, we need still are able to take action over the things we can actually control. So even if we are feeling fear or we feel like worry and like everything seems uncontrollable, we need to try to shift our focus and remind ourselves that it's still possible to take action. For example, let's say that you lost your job during the beginning of the pandemic. So even though it's a difficult situation and you cannot control what happened, you can still control how you manage your energy, for example, and how much energy you're putting into your next job search. You're still controlling your day to day. You're still able to control what is the action that you're going to take afterwards. Like, are you going to feel defeated or because something happened that you weren't expecting, or are you going to take a more hands-on approach and actually take action regularly? So by shifting and focusing on the good aspect and of the problems or the things that you can actually make something about it, then you're gonna shift from ineffective worrying, and we're going um, to think about actual problem solving. So at the end of the day, I understand that all circumstances are different and that it might be hard to control the emotions and our attitudes, but those are the initial things that are in our control. So my invitation is for you to actually look into your life at the moment and don't focus on the outside circumstances and rather on the small things that you can still control over your day-to-day life. The second thing is challenge our need for sanity, because while our sanctity and challenge and change is part of our life, we tend to deal with discomfort in a different way. We always see discomfort as a bad thing, when in reality, we need to start finding ways to actually accept that uncertainty and see why do we need to be certain all the time when change is part of our life. Like everything changes all the time, so why do you expect things to be the same always? No, so that'll be the first thing. So whenever we feel the need to be certain all the time, you need to ask yourself, what can you start looking in your life in order for you to actually feel um, like ready whenever a change appears in your life, because change is inevitable. It's going to happen and it's going to be part of our day to day. So we need to learn how to deal with it from the start rather than expecting for everything to be perfect, you know? And so in addition to worry about every possible scenario, you could, for example, stop micromanaging people, or stop procrastinating, or stop for seeking for reassurance from others, or stop like repeating checking things. So try to challenge this behavior. So for example, think about what are the advantages of certainty and what are the disadvantages as well. You can ask yourself, how much can you be absolutely certain about in your life? Like do like an introspect and do like a check and see if anything in your life is actually guaranteed. Like because in reality it's not. Like if you think about it, your health is not guaranteed, your job, like you never know what tomorrow is going to look like. So the more you accept the fact, the better. The next tip is to learn how to better tolerate and even embrace the inevitable uncertainty of life. So no matter how much we just strive to eliminate doubt or volatility from your life, the truth is you already accept a lot of uncertainty in your everyday life. So for example, every time you cross the street, every time you go behind the wheel of your car, or every time you eat out, you can never predict those things. Like for example, whenever you go behind you're going to drive, it turns out that you don't have gasoline, or whenever you're going to a restaurant, turns out you're allergic to something, or turns out the food was too salty and you couldn't eat it. So you're always accepting a certain level of uncertainty in your day-to-day life. So you need to make sure that we actually learn how to tolerate those things, because we already do it. It's just like in a more micro scale. And for example, sometimes irrational fears might come in and worries start like taking over our day and our life. And it can be hard to think logically and actually see the probability of something happening. But to actually help you become more tolerant and actually embrace this uncertainty, you could, for example, identify your uncertainty triggers. So, because most of our worries are self-generated, either having a pessimistic outlook or excessive worrying, or it can be through external sources. But whatever it is, we are putting ourselves in the situation, right? We're choosing to be worried. We're choosing to get triggered about it. So it's also up to us to make a conscious different decisions. Also, you can recognize when you feel the need for sanity. So whenever you start to feel anxious about a situation or fearful, or feel like a situation is worse than what it actually is, you could look for physical cues that you're actually feeling this way. You might start noticing certain tension in your neck, in your shoulder, but once you notice that everything is happening, like all of this is happening, you need to take a moment to pause and actually recognize that you're craving reassurance or a guarantee. And then you need to ask yourself, why do you need that and how can you achieve the perspective? And finally, about that is allowing yourself to actually feel something, because feelings are meant to be felt. Like at the end of the day, we need to understand that our feelings are not wrong. All of our feelings are valid. So if you really feel uncertain, fully embrace that for however long you need it, but actually eventually focus in the present moment and breathe and allow yourself to simply feel and observe that that uncertainty that you're dealing with. So once you take it slow and you actually take your deep breath and actually maybe even try meditation, you can anchor yourself in the present, which is what we want. Because uncertainty and worry is all about is living in the future, right? Because whenever we worry, is most of the time it's not about something that is happening in the present, and rather something that we fear that will happen in the future. But if we start shifting the focus from the future and actually focus on the present, then it's going to be easier to anchor ourselves. And the final thing is to try to reduce our anxiety and stress level. And I know it can be a little bit challenging, but here the point is, and the idea is to focus on the present, because we cannot anticipate the bad things that can happen. We can just not. So we might feel hopeless or depressed about the days ahead, or even exaggerate the scope of the problems you might face, and even get paralyzed from taking action and actually finding ways to overcome the problem. But basically, one of the surest way to avoid worrying about the future is to focus on the present. And instead of trying to predict what could happen, switch your attention to what is happening right now by being fully connected to the present, so you can interrupt the negative assumptions, because that's all they are, negative assumptions. And we need to actually feel that whatever you're doing in the present is going to affect the future, because your present is actually the reflection of the decisions in your past. So your future is going to be the reflections of the things that you're doing now. So whenever you shift that attention, then you start trying to create the future starting today, rather than later. And that is going to help you manage the stress and anxiety. Other thing that you can do in order to deal with that is to move, like either exercise or dancing or something that is fun, that is actually going to help you induce more endorphins in your life. Also, make time for relaxation, because sometimes we are doing and never actually resting, and that's something that we really need to do in order to be productive at the end of the day. And at the end, we need to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. Like, even though we might feel uncertain or that the situation is difficult, whenever we take care of ourselves, we take care of the future. Because if you take care of yourself, you actually have energy, you actually have clarity, you actually make better decisions, and it's a win-win. So whenever you feel that nothing is working, take a pause for a moment, take a moment to actually introspect and ask yourself, what am I feeling, why am I feeling it, and how can I overcome it? Those are like my main themes about that. So that's mainly everything for the section about how to deal with uncertainty. Now let's talk about how to set goals the right way so you actually follow through. And this is divided in several sections. So the first thing that I will recommend, and this is like that is one of the most important things, is the power of why. Because we need to understand what is the purpose behind our goal. And because once we have a strong enough purpose, then it becomes easier to follow through because we actually know what we need to do. So if you like for example, let's say that you want a financial freedom, like you want to launch your business because you want financial freedom, right? That sounds great and everything, but we usually want more than that. So that financial freedom can mean several things. Can be, for example, you will have enough money to save for your kids' education, or you are going to be able to pay for your parents' house, or you're going to be able to pay for your dream vacation. Whatever it is, there is always a big enough reason. It's always more than the money. It's always more about the initial and external reason. So in order to do that, I recommend this exercise called the 7 levels of why. The idea is to help, is to find your core emotional driver, you see it in. Because the thing is, whenever um, we find a strong enough reason to do what we want to do, then it's easier to find the time. Then it's easier to actually follow through. Then it's easier to go the extra mile or find the extra energy or actually go all in. Because if your why is not strong enough, then you would always find an excuse to not do it. But if your reason is very clear and is very defined, then whenever you set a goal, you always are going to follow through, because otherwise you're not going to actually fulfill that core emotional driver. And the thing is, whenever and that lack of clarity also keep us from taking action. And we're afraid, because we're afraid of taking the wrong action or actually choosing the wrong path. But whenever we actually have true clarity about our destination and practically any derail is going to take us to the same place, because we are so clear on where we want to go and why we want to get there. Okay? And once you define what you want and once you have like a strong enough reason to get there, the path will begin to unfold. Because you don't have, one thing we need to understand is that we don't have to have everything figured out from the right moment. Like sometimes we just need to define our point A and then our point B. And the little steps that you need to take along the way will start unfolding the more you take action. Because if you're always stuck on A, then you don't know how which direction you need to take, right? Because it's impossible to know, like it's never like a straight line. It's always like a path here, and then you take a turn, and it's usually like unfolding, and you need to like be able to redirect that. But if your why is not strong enough, then you wouldn't have the energy to redirect, and you wouldn't have like a good enough reason to actually redirect and to actually get to be. Okay? The next thing we need to keep in mind is the ecology of our goals. So we need to ask yourself, how are my goals going to affect people around me? And this is really, really important, because sometimes we think that our goals are just amazing and they are going to bring things, but we fail to consider the change that it's going to bring in our life. So sometimes we have second gains and we need to identify them. So for example, let's say that consciously you want to launch your business and to make more money, right? But subconsciously you have second gains or advantages of your current situation. So for example, you're afraid, subconsciously you're afraid of making money because it means that you're gonna lose your current friends, or you don't know how to deal with taxes and that worries you, or you're worried that money might change you. So we have subconsciously believed about our goal that um, if we don't check them, it's gonna feel like a cognitive dissonance. Conscious, which means consciously we want something, but unconsciously we believe something else. So, for example, if you are always thinking about launching your business and making more money and like all of this, but subconsciously you think that money is the root of all evil, or that money is going to corrupt you. Then there is a cognitive dissonance because one thing doesn't correlate to the other, right? The other thing that you need to start asking yourself is, what are the wider consequences of my actions? What will I lose if I make this change? And this is important because sometimes when we think about our goals, we're always thinking about what can we gain, when in reality, we can also lose things. Like we can lose friendships, we can lose habits, we can lose um, how do you say, network, or you can lose certain things. And if you're not conscious about it, then it's gonna be more difficult to actually get there. The other thing is, what are the good aspects of my present situation? How will this change affect others in my life? So, for example, let's say that your dream is to go live in Italy, for example, and it all sounds great, but you need to also think, okay, yes, I'm going to move to a different country and live in Europe, but how is going to affect my family? Like, if you have very strong family values, then it's going to be a cognitive dissonance. Like, yes, consciously you want to travel to Italy, but subconsciously you're worried about leaving your family, because that goal that you have is going to affect the other people in your life, whether you want it or not. Basically, you need to ask yourself, what is the price of making this change, and am I willing to pay it? There is always a price to pay for any goal or any change. Like, it could be a price regarding habits. Like, there are things you need to stop doing and things you need to start doing. Or you need to stop hanging out with some people and start hanging out with a different kind of people. Changes are part of any goal that we have. But if we don't ask ourselves, what does it need to change? What is the price? Then we're gonna always have like an internal battle that we don't even know why is happening in the first place. But now that you know about the cognitive dissonance, you need to ask yourself, okay, what is the price? What are my second gains? Am I willing to pay it? How is it going to affect others? Because once you think about this ecology of your goals, then it's going to be easier to identify any possible roadblocks along the way. The third thing about your goals is the POW process. And you need to ask yourself, basically the P stands for possibility, and the A for ability, the W for worthiness. And basically you need to ask yourself, is it possible to achieve your goal? Are you able to achieve them? Do you deserve to achieve them? Because once you answer yes to all of these questions, then you can move forward. Because you cannot move forward with your goals, or you're always going to be procrastinating about it, or maybe taking action, if you don't believe you are able to achieve them in the first place. If you are self-doubting yourself, if you are self-sabotaging, or you don't think it's going to be possible for you. But if you don't even think it's possible for you in the first place, how are you going to expect to actually take action on those goals, right? So this is a very simple process, but it actually helps you bring more clarity to whatever it is that you're working on. The third thing that you need to start asking yourself is, what might stop you? So there are different reasons. Some of these are valid, others are not so much. Like, for example, you don't have the resources, you have the resources, but you don't know what to do, or you know what to do, but you don't believe you have the skill, or you have the skill, but it doesn't seem worthwhile, or it is worthwhile, but somehow it's just not sure. Because one thing that we fail to do sometimes when we are setting our goals is that we don't identify the possible roadblocks. Like sometimes we create a super plan, we create all of these steps, but if we don't even think about the things that might stop you, when the moment comes and they actually try to stop you, then you're going to stop following through. So you need to ask yourself all of these questions, and then you need to decide, is it actually true, or is it just a story that I'm telling myself? Is it an actual factual reason? So for example, let's say that you think that you know what to do, but you don't believe you have the skill. So if you don't believe you have the skill, then what can you do in order to feel like you have the skill? Like for example, do you need to work with beta clients? Do you need to take more courses? Like, is it really something that might stop you? And if it is, how can you overcome it? But if you don't know what might stop you, you wouldn't even know how to overcome it, and you wouldn't know how to create a plan for it. For example, let's say that you think that you don't have the resources, and then you think about, no, actually I can Google things, or actually I can take this course, or actually I can research on YouTube, or actually I can use this freebie. So sometimes we think that things will stop us, but in reality they are not. And once you actually start taking action, then it's going to be easier to see, okay, is this an actual factual reason for me to not follow through, or this is just a story that I'm telling myself. The Okay, so the other thing is about setting smart goals and prioritize wisely. So I don't know if you have heard of these smart goals, but basically, when you set a goal that is specific, that is measurable, that is achievable, relevant, and time oriented, you have a SMART goal. Because the thing is, sometimes we are not specific at the moment of setting our goals. Like we might say, no, I want to lose weight. And in reality, that's not a SMART goal, because what does it mean? Like, how are you going to lose weight? How are you going to do it? So a better goal or a SMART goal could be, I'm going to lose 3 kilos by September 2021, and I'm going to do it by going to the gym 3 times a week. So that is very specific, and that is doable, and you have a specific plan to do it, right? It is specific, it is measurable, it is totally achievable, and it's time oriented. Because sometimes we don't even assign dates, and we just let it just like, because if we don't set a time or a date, then it can happen whenever. And if you're actually serious about it, you're gonna set a deadline. And the other thing is prioritize wisely. So this could be like a deadline, or actually think about what is it that you want and focus on that single thing at all costs. So for example, in my case, whenever I wanted to launch my business, that was the only thing I was doing. Like I'm multi-passionate, and I have different projects and different things that I could do. But if I really wanted something and I really wanted to launch the business, then I needed to actually prioritize that single thing instead of having my energy scattered all over the place. So prioritization is your best friend here. You need to make sure that you actually prioritize what you want and forget about the rest. And that's it. Let me know if you have any questions about this topic. I will be happy to answer. And yeah, that's it for my presentation for today.
Thank you, Chili. That was such a wonderful presentation. Like, we got to learn so much today from you. There are a couple of things that you mentioned that were really, really amazing. You talked about focusing on what you can control instead of focusing on what is happening on the outside. Now, one question that I have for you is, what is one tool that you would recommend anybody who's really focused on the outside circumstances? Because when things are going wrong, we are usually very overwhelmed by what is happening around us, and we find it very difficult to focus on what is on the inside. So, what would you recommend a person can do in such a situation?
So the first thing about that is journaling. So sometimes we're in our head all the time, but the moment we actually sit down and put our thoughts in paper, everything becomes clearer. So you can, for example, whenever you're journaling, you can create two columns. Okay, and you can create a column of the things that you're worried about, and everything is valid about that. And the other column, you actually write the things that you can actually control, and then you just need to start weighting each column, and you start like comparing, and by actually putting your thoughts on paper, it's going to be easier to understand why you're feeling it, and you actually start the process of introspecting, because it's almost like like having like a friendly chat. Like sometimes whenever we say things out loud, we feel like a weight is lifted. And the same thing happens when we put things on paper, because it's actually having a conversation with ourselves. And whenever you have that intimate and a long conversation with yourself, then it's actually therapeutic, because you understand how you're feeling way better than if you keep everything here. So that would be like my main thing about that.
Yes, yes, very true. It's like you are dumping everything out on the paper from your brain. Your brain doesn't have to
Yeah,
do it always.
exactly.
Another point that you mentioned was about taking time to rest, and I think that that is really important to bring into life, because these days being busy is being glamorized. You know, the hustle hard
Yeah,
culture. So I think that was a very good point that you made, because if we stop to take rest, if we stop, we start feeling guilty because of the hustle hard culture. So amazing
yeah.
point that you made.
Thank you.
Another point that you made was about core emotional driver when you are setting a goal for yourself. And
Yeah,
I think that is really important as well, because we usually set goals that are very conventional or very safe. We think about, okay,
yeah,
we have to do this particular degree, like what I did. I thought that being an engineer is a safe route to take. And then you get a job in an MNC or a Fortune 50 company, and then your life is all set. So we don't think about what drives us, but we think about what is safe for us according to the society. So that was another amazing point which I really loved about your presentation. You talked about conscious and subconscious beliefs, and you
yeah,
gave the example like the conscious mind wants more money, want to earn more money by starting a business, and then you said that the subconscious mind might believe that money is the cause of all evil. So what I want to ask you here is, what is one way that somebody can try to change those subconscious beliefs? Because I think that is something that is put in our head from the very beginning, like since when we were a child. So
yeah.
those thoughts are very deep rooted. So how can one try and change those beliefs?
Exactly. So that's something really, really important, and that we all face. Like we all have limiting beliefs in some way. And most of those limiting beliefs actually came from childhood, like you mentioned. So the first step is to identify them. Like actually ask yourself and make a list of what are those limiting beliefs, because you cannot change what you don't know that you need to change, right? So once you make like a list, like as many as you need to write down, or sometimes there are like lists online. Like if there is one specific topic that you are concerned about, you can actually go to Google and search for lists of limiting belief about XYZ. So once you have that list, then we need to start to reframe them, and the process starts by finding proof that is not true, because a belief is not a fact. A belief is just a story, and basically a lie that we have told ourselves enough time that we actually believe is true. So if for example, let's say that you believe that in order to be successful you need to have a PhD, or you need to have like all of these studies, or you need to have a bestseller book and all of this, and or, for example, you think that in order to be an entrepreneur, you need to start very young. And you think, like, for example, you're too old to start a business. And that's a belief, because if you actually start to find proof that is not true, then it doesn't add up. So you need to say, for example, if you think that you are too old to launch a business, then you start finding people who actually launch their business late in life. For example, the founder of KFC is Colonel Sanders. He launched his business at 60 or 50. Same with the founder of McDonald's. So the more proof that you find in order to dismantle this belief, the easier it is for you to believe that, oh, actually, this is not true. Like, why am I believing this? Like, I see proof that's true. So the more proof you find, the more you can actually start reprogramming yourself. So that's the second step. So you find all of the proof that you can about that particular belief. The third thing will be to create a new affirmation around that. So, for example, let's say that you think that you are too old to start a business, and now you have the evidence that is not true. So your new affirmation is going to be, I can launch my business whenever I want it. So that can be a new affirmation, right? And the final tip is to confirm it. Because the reason why affirmations fail is because we don't confirm it. They just stay in our brain, like, yes, it sounds nice, but then your brains start, because you feel that it's not true, then your brains start going liar, liar, liar. So by creating like a confirmation log, you start to actually find proof that this affirmation is actually working. So you can start, a confirmation can be, no, I actually got a new lead today. My business is working. Or I actually show up in stories and sold my service to 10 people. Or I actually got a collaboration with somebody else. So your affirmation is, I get to launch my business whenever I want it. And you start confirming it by small action steps until it becomes cemented in your mind.
Very excellent point. The point you mentioned about the confirmation log, I think that is very excellent. A lot of people miss that point.
Yeah.
We usually convert our limiting belief to an affirmation, and then our mind is like, oh no, you're a liar. You're not thin. You're fat. No, you're not successful. So that is what happens. So confirmation log, that's a really interesting point. And lastly, I really appreciated the point you talked about roadblocks. And another example, you gave one example really nicely, and I think another example could be losing weight. So very simple roadblock could be the packaged and processed food that are there in our pantry, but we don't plan accordingly. We think, okay, we want to lose weight, but we don't plan accordingly. We don't think about those roadblocks in advance. So an amazing point again that you mentioned.
Yeah, and the thing about, for example, choosing the right food, that's really important because that's the easiest and part of our losing weight journey, and that's the easiest to control. And we make it difficult, but in reality, it's a simple fix. Like, we need to just remove the temptation instead of actually worrying about avoiding the temptation once it's there. So if you decide to clean your fridge or your kitchen and just remove anything that is not healthy, then you don't need to fight against yourself because the temptation is no longer there. So we think that it needs to be a constant fight when in reality all it takes is a small change, just like remove everything that is going to tempt you, so you don't have to fight yourself.
Yes, exactly. Very true. Very interesting presentation, Chili. I absolutely loved it. And Hema, do you want to say something?
Yes, Ruchika. Good morning, ma'am. Very nice talk by you that we have got enlightened about how to deal with uncertainty by taking action over the things you can control and maintaining our balanced. Maintaining our mental state and reducing our stress level by physical relaxation. And what is the purpose of the goal? Means asking why ourselves so that we can know about what goal we have to take and which is very important aspect in our life, and analyzing that how our goals are going to affect people around us, that which is also a very important aspect, and mainly understand the power process like possibility, ability, and worthiness of our goal, means how the analyzing about it, and the factors both internal and external also, so which may stop us from reaching our goal, which is like we brought enlightened about this, and very nice talk, ma'am, and thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy that you learned everything and that it was very useful. I'm really happy. Happy to share and happy for you to share with me as well.
All right, Mr. Srivastava, do you want to say something?
Yes, Chile, it was a really nice talk. And I was only wondering at this small age how you have gathered so much of knowledge. Is it by
Thank you
reading
so
or
much.
by experience?
Both. Yeah, I started very young and just like I was just very curious about this topic and learning a lot of things online and just like finding answers in whatever medium I could. Like if I wanted to know something, I will find a way to know more about it and to actually like absorb the topic and find different authors or find different books. Like not only my formal education, but also actually finding different sources and whenever I will work with my clients. Like my clients are like my biggest source of knowledge because I can actually see how everything that I'm learning are actually affecting them and how I can help them with the knowledge that I have. And that constant feedback is very, very useful.
I'm actually seriously jealous about your knowledge because at this age also I could not collect so much of knowledge. Although I am experiencing all those what you said today, but I have never thought I would pen it and I would put it on paper somewhere and I would make it a lecture of this kind. Such a great knowledge you are having. I am really surprised. And the most important thing that you said was already Hema has pointed out that this was the power of why. We
Mm.
actually do not know where are we heading.
Yeah.
We actually do not know what are we heading for and why are we heading for is the most important thing that we should know before we start our journey to any place, anything, any career, anything. But we really don't think about it. And now through
Yeah.
your
Thank you.
lecture, I think many people will start thinking about it that if we are doing this, why should we do it? If we are going there, why should we go there? And if there is a question mark to each of your um, uh, uh, issues that you are taking up, then you get the right result. That's what I think. But I am really, really honored that you have uh, spent so much of time, precious time that you had to. Maybe you had to go to some other assignment, maybe you had some other meeting, but you have spent so much precious time here. I'm really grateful to you. Thank you very much. And I would also like to take your permission that I would like to interview you one day separately, one to one. I would like
Awesome.
to
Thank you
talk
so
to
much.
you, and I will, through Ruchika, I will give you a message so that we can talk at least half an hour on one particular issue, just why, or maybe some other issue of uncertainty, because that we would then discuss in length and we could provide more information to the people. Thank you very much for joining me here and have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you very
You
much.
too. Thank you for inviting me. I had a wonderful experience. I'm happy to share. And yeah, I will like we can totally set up a different meeting another time. I will be happy to help. So yeah, I'm really happy that everything that I shared was useful and that you actually got a lot of insights about it and you can actually apply it because that's the point. Like whatever I share, you apply it, even if it is one little thing, apply it in your life. So thank you.
And I'm not only inviting you for an interview. I'm also inviting you to India. The next seminar, conference, whatever we will have, I'm going to invite you, and I don't want to listen no from you, and I'm
Awesome.
sure you won't say no also because
Okay.
okay.
Okay, I will try to.
Thank you. Not to try, you have to come. Thank you.
Awesome. I will put it on my goal list
Yes,
to
your
make it
goals
happen.
are absolute clear also, and
Yes.
you've spoken so well about everything that I want to keep talking to you for 20 hours. I don't know how and when will I get that time.
That will be
Why
wonderful.
will I get time? I am clear about it now. Why should I get time? But I need to know when and where will I get time. So I need to find out and then speak to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much once again. But be with us.
Awesome.
Please don't go away. If you have time, please be with us, because we have entertaining day today. We have a lot of cultural activities here the whole day. And you can see, especially in the evening, if you have time, do join back again at 4 o'clock, because that will be the closing ceremony, and we'll have a lot of Indian cultural activities. So you can have a look at that, and you can enjoy that also. Thank you very much
Okay,
for
I
joining
will
us.
try. You too. Thank you so much for inviting me. Have a wonderful day.
Cheily, before you go, I have one small request. So we have with us Dr. Kamla Sai, and she was a dancer when she was a kid. But yesterday I told her to keep on dancing, but she was like, "No, no, I am too old now. My daughters are big. They are because they've become doctors and everything." So I want you to encourage her once. Dr. Kamla Sai, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Cheely is going to tell you why you need to pursue your dream of dancing again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cheely is a master of why. She will always tell you why you should do.
Yes, like if you love it, and like why do you think you cannot do it? Like you need to start yourself with the why. Like what are the current excuses and what are the current reasons that you give yourself to not do it? And actually see everything that you can gain and how you're going to affect other people positively if you actually are happier by doing what you like. Because once we actually do the work that we love doing, or the hobbies that we want, our energy is so much better, and everyone around us is going to be affected by it. It's not going to be only us. Sometimes we think that our goals are individual, but in reality every goal and everything we achieve is going to affect everyone. And if you do it now and you actually say no to excuses, you're going to become an inspiration to somebody else. Like you're showing your daughters and your family what is possible, and that you're actually brave, and that you're actually happy to take the risk. And that's the best example, especially for your family, because we can always watch in the movies, we can always watch the heroes, but in reality, the heroes are just like next to us. So we can always be an inspiration to somebody else just by us pursuing what we want to do.
Yeah, before you leave this forum, I would like to tell you one more thing. On a lighter note, but seriously, that I have become your fan. Only because you are master of why. I could not find on many issues, I could not find why. But because you are a master of why, I need to learn so many things about you now, and from you about why. And that's why one of the reasons, great reasons of becoming your fan, a big fan. So
Thank you so much. I'm flattered.
please give me an opportunity to interview you once, so that we can have more information on such issues. Really great.
When-
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, like we can just set it up with Rishika, like in an email or like another time. So I'm happy to do it. We just need to find the right time. But thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very flattered, and I will be happy to do it.
Yes, I would definitely contact you on that. And thank you so much, Chidi, for accepting my invitation. I'm really, really glad and honored that you are here today and that you shared so much knowledge with us. We all thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you have the time at 1:30 p.m. IST, we have another speaker who's a life coach from Hong Kong, Miss Maggie Lee. She will join us, and she will be talking about how to earn online and how the things were going on, the business is going on online in Hong Kong and on Instagram. So if you want to join us, you can do that. We would be more than happy to have you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Chidi. Thank you once again, and have a great day today.
You too, and enjoy everyone. It was happy to see you all. Bye.
Bye. All right,
Okay,
so that's
bye.
it from South America, and I hope that you all enjoyed this session.